Why is IB curriculum that expensive?
The IB mandates a certain standard in place which involves infrastructure, teacher training, and high quality resources. So, unless that is in place, the school is not accredited to offer the curriculum.
What do you, as an educator, see the future of IB in India being like?
I think the future of IB in India is quite promising because it is a curriculum that speaks for itself from the students that it caters to.
Two children who have applied for a university. One is done from IB and one is done from Cambridge. Both are equally talented, equally skilled, have done the same subject. Which student would a university pick?
When it comes to a university officer, they have a lot of factors in mind. The character of the child, what kind of activities the child has engrossed themselves in, what are the academic results of the child, and what are the interests of the child, and what is the initiative the child portrays.
Who or which parents IB is not for?
So if you think you cannot meet the requirements of the academic fees, yes, you may have to think again about opting for the IB.
Do you think IB is exclusive for the elite and only the rich?
I wouldn't say that because IB is a very inclusive program and IB doesn't let any child be left behind. IB is open to all students to take it.
If I want my daughter to attend any of the competitive exams in India, IB is not the route. Welcome to Yellow Slate, India's top school search engine. Today we have with us Ms Anuradha Varma, Principal of Oakridge International School Bachupally, Hyderabad. Can you give a justified answer to why is IB curriculum that expensive?
Yes, it's a fact that the IB curriculum tends to be more expensive than the rest of the curricula that we offer at school. And the reason for that being the IB mandates a certain standard in place before we offer the curriculum. So every school that wants to offer any of the IB programs, be it the primary years or the middle years or the diploma, needs to go through a stringent accreditation process, which involves putting a lot of things in place. So there is a stringent accreditation process which involves infrastructure, teacher training, and high quality resources. So unless that is in place, the school is not accredited to offer the curriculum. So that involves certain cost. And it's that cost that tips down as fees. And that's how it becomes a little more expensive for the parent.
The standardized procedures or the protocols that is given to you by the board, is it higher than Cambridge or CBSE? Is that the reason why it's expensive?
It would become expensive because one major factor that we need to put in place is that all teachers need to be trained, and which involves understanding the IB philosophy or understanding what needs to happen in the classroom for ensuring that the child has a holistic development as per the IB philosophies. And this training is not a one-time process. We need to make sure that the teachers are constantly upgrading their skills. The teachers are keeping themselves updated about changes in the curriculum, and the IB curriculum changes once in 7 years. So it's a constant process of upgradation, both for the school and the teacher.
Do you think IB teachers are standards or are set aside differently or higher than your other Cambridge or a CBSE school teacher?
I wouldn't exactly say that, but teaching the IB curriculum requires a certain amount of dedication and commitment.
Much more than the other curriculums?
Much more than the other curriculums, but more importantly, it requires a certain shift in mindset for a teacher as well. So if I could cite a personal experience, I have been through a teaching career where I have taught the CBSE and the other curricula and then graduated to teach the IB. But when I reached that point in life when I could teach the IB, a lot of things that I had to unlearn as a teacher to be able to adapt to the IB philosophy and to be able to offer a classroom experience to the child, which is mandated by IB or which is what the IB expects me to do within the classroom. A simple thing like a reflection that a child is expected to do for self-development was not something that I came across in any other curricula over my 15 years of teaching experience. So there is a lot of fine-tuning that a teacher might need to undergo through the process of being an IB teacher. And it is a transformative process even for a teacher.
So saying that, now the IB teachers are trained by their own schools, or is there a teaching program for teachers
so
to go?
all teachers undergo a category 1 training in their respective subjects that they are qualified to teach.
That is in their own school, the school that takes that?
So the school has an option of enrolling a teacher for an IB offered training, which is a standard training that the IB expects the teachers to undergo as part of putting the standards in place.
Right.
So the teachers enroll for that training, and that's
Okay.
the basic requirement for a teacher to start teaching the IB program.
Okay.
Apart from that, we do have a lot of in-house professional development tailored for the teachers from experienced teachers or from guest speakers or other IB resource people who might come into the school and do an in-house training. Or we may have intra-school visits where we might visit another IB school to, share understanding between teachers, have collaborative practices between schools. So there is a lot of learning that happens between schools, within school, and also with the IB.
So as far as most of the parents' understanding goes, CBSE curriculum is where the textbooks are there. We'll have to study and the question and answers come from the textbook.
Right.
Cambridge curriculum picks few topics, but they also have assigned books for particular topic. But IB curriculum is where there are no textbooks. Is it true?
I could say yes and no to this question. If you look at the market, there are textbooks being published for the IB as well. But as per the IB philosophy, the teaching that takes place in the classroom is not textbook driven. It doesn't follow a structured content. It is a process where the child is an inquirer, child is the center of attention, and child is given a lot of agency to be responsible for their own learning.
Okay.
So it's more concept driven. It's more, it involves more of critical thinking, research, and independent charge of doing what they need to do and also reflecting on what they've done and improving at every step of the way.
So IB curriculum is where there is no structured
approach to teaching. There is no structured approach to teaching.
But you have topics given in every subject or every standard that they have to cover.
So there would be topics or broader concepts that need to be covered. And these concepts can be covered with the flexibility that the teacher deems fit for that particular age group or for a particular child based on the capability of that child. Or if the teacher feels that there is a transdisciplinary approach required, the teacher is free to do that. The teacher is free to reorder the topics the way she wants. The teacher is also free to make sure that the learning doesn't necessarily happen inside the classroom. It could be done outside the classroom. It could be through an explorative exercise given to the student. It could be through a flipped classroom mode. So there is a lot of flexibility for the teacher to make sure that the child is gaining what the broader concept talks about. And also the child is regularly reflecting on what he's understood, what more he can gain or what more he needs to do.
Okay. So ma'am, can you give us an example of any one topic? How is it taught differently in Cambridge or CBSE compared to what it is taught in IB?
If I would take the same subject, environmental systems and societies, it's more to do with ecology. And if I were teaching the same in a CBSE curriculum, it would probably, I'm talking about the topic on pollution, where I might categorically ask the children to list out the various types of pollution and what they can do about it. Whereas in the IB, I would probably ask children to, look around them and identify what are the modes of pollution that they see around them. And maybe they would even come down to the level of the school and identify what are the different types of pollution they can identify within their school and what action they can take against to avoid that. And maybe they would even engage in a student-led activity where they, take up the leadership to drive that change within the school. So there is a lot of responsibility given to the child to solve problems that they see around them within the IB curriculum.
So that you're talking about grade 11 or 10. Let's say I'm talking about middle school, grade 7, 8. So at the end of the year, do you have an assessment in IB just to identify how far the child has gained the knowledge?
So like I said, no, not in the middle school. Middle school, the middle years program doesn't have any formal assessment. The child has formative assessment in the form of a personal project that they present, and that is what they are assessed upon.
So it starts only from high school?
It starts only from the diploma program, which is grade 11 and 12. There is no structured examination.
Okay. When a child is in IB curriculum, it is more of project driven. It is more presentation. It's more trying to do research. Don't you think it's a little pressure on a child when we are talking about a topic and we are not giving the entire subject to the child and just telling, figure it out? Do you think that's the right way?
Okay, so let me correct you there. We don't tell the child figure it out. We do have a lot of scaffolding in place where say we are trying to teach the child to research, we
Okay.
do start from the basics. We try to tell them how to identify an authentic source of information,
Right.
what classifies a source of information as authentic or something that is not creditable.
Okay.
And we teach them to identify that. We
Okay.
teach them to acknowledge the sources that they've referred to. So if they have a project in place and they have put in a picture from somewhere, we try to tell them, okay, you need to credit the source you got this picture from.
Right.
So we don't accept the projects without
source.
that
Okay.
source cited
Right.
there. And
Okay.
that is something IB strongly feels about, which is academic integrity. So academic integrity is taught much early to a child in the IB
Okay.
curriculum than the other curriculum. So there is a lot of coaching or a lot of counseling on how they could use digital tools more ethically and being very mindful about what they're doing with whatever information they have in hand.
Okay. So the way you're telling me, most of the things that the child does and submits it all falls under the teachers. I mean, the teachers need to direct them, guide them. So saying that, how much do you think a teacher will be able to manage 20 children in a class, evenly give her time to all 20 of them?
That's a good question. I mean, it's not an easy task to be able
Exactly.
to provide that kind of individualized attention.
Yes.
But there is also a lot of innovative approaches to teaching within the IB. The teachers are encouraged to have a differential approach. And IB is also a very inclusive curriculum where no child is left behind. So we have to
Yes.
cater to every child in the classroom. So that's where the teachers strategize to plan their lessons. So there is a lot of data-driven analysis of what a child specifically needs to improve upon and where a child can probably peer tutor another child. So there is a lot of
Right.
grouping that
Yes.
we take into account within the classroom so that one child could be a help to the other. We also think of how we can motivate a gifted child or challenge a gifted child to go
Correct.
beyond what he has learned within the
Right.
classroom to try and, motivate them to explore their interests. So there's a lot of thought that goes into planning of a lesson within the classroom, where the group dynamics, the capabilities of the children, the inclusivity that we need to be mindful of are all taken care of. Sure.
It sounds like the most difficult teacher job compared to the other curriculums.
Yeah, it is quite challenging. But I think once the teachers get a hang of how they need to execute things in the class, I think most teachers start enjoying the process.
Okay.
Because there is a lot of agency given to the child for his own learning.
Right.
So the teacher is not constantly ensuring that, okay, this child has to secure these many marks.
Yes,
and
you
there's
don't
no
have
pressure
exams.
there to make sure that there's a performance related pressure that's not there.
Yeah, that's not
Every
there.
child is allowed to improve one step at a time.
Okay.
And the teacher is mindful of where the child is at a certain point.
Okay.
And is able to take the remedial course in the
Okay.
next class to cater to what progress that child needs to make.
Okay. So now, as a parent, I want to understand when it's a IB curriculum, the child gets a lot of work from the school to do. As a working parent, I do not have the time and the flexibility to cater to my child. What do you suggest for me as a working parent to try and bridge that gap?
Firstly, the parent needs to have a sound understanding of what happens within the IB classroom, or
Okay.
how the child is being assessed, or what are the expectations from the child as an IB learner. So I think most parents need to get that here the onus is on the child. The child needs to be able to take charge of their own learning and be able to manage their time well. If it is a child who needs a lot of guidance and a lot of push, maybe that child may find it a little challenging to
Yes.
do the IB course. But apart from that, I think schools do structure their timelines and they work very mindfully.
Okay.
Because like I said, IB is very child-centered and it
Right.
focuses on the learner.
Right.
So we do, if I can, cite for diploma program, we do have an internal assessment calendar that we chart out at the beginning of the year and we share it with the students so they know exactly what is due when.
Okay.
And they have enough time to, build upon that assessment and,
Okay.
submit it in time. So nothing comes as a surprise. They know exactly what's going to come up and what they need to do.
Okay.
And there's a lot of scaffolding also within the classroom. A child is not just expected to do an extended essay the next day.
Right.
So it's a long drawn
Yes,
process, and
course.
there's a lot of support from the teachers, and there's a lot of peer support that they can always bank upon.
Okay. So now let's say my daughter has done till 10th in IB, but she decides that she wants to give NEET or JEE or IIT.
Yeah.
Will she be able to cope up with the CBSE standards?
I think content-wise, there shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Because the content is mostly similar, be it CBSE or be it IBDP. The difference that she may come across is in the mode of teaching and the mode of learning.
Okay.
Because IB is more student driven and
Right.
is where the student has a lot of ownership, whereas CBSE is more teacher driven.
Right.
So there would be a tangible shift in the way the classroom experience is for the child.
Right.
So that's one difficulty that she might face.
Okay.
But apart from that, I think because the competitive exams, especially Indian competitive exams, are based on the CBSE syllabus or content, there might be slight variations in topics that might have been covered in the IB or in the CBSE, which she might need to bridge as well.
So if I want my daughter to attend any of the competitive exams in India, IB is not the route.
Not really. So again, IB is more skill focused, helps the child to develop their critical thinking, their time management, the way they approach assessments, and of course, to ace the assessments to the best of their ability. But CBSE is more content driven. So if it is just to master the content, CBSE is the route. And like I said, the topics within the content would vary within the CBSE and IB. So that's the area that needs to be bridged if the child is going into entrance exams in India. But if you want your child to be a well-rounded individual with the skills that you value or which would take them places when they go for a future which is unpredictable, then IB would be the path. But if you don't bother about the skills and you just want to make sure that they know these topics and they're ready for the exam, then CBSE would be the path.
So the topics might be similar in Cambridge or CBSE, but you're saying the depth or
the depth of the topic
would
differ because there would be more focus on certain topics in the CBSE, whereas certain topics in the IB. So if the exam is based on the CBSE syllabus, if you haven't covered the topics that have been covered within the CBSE, you stand to lose. But with in relation to the way you approach the exams or you attempt the exams or the stress that you face during examinations, the IB prepares you well for it.
Can you tell me who or which parents IB is not for?
Considering the cost, yes. So if you think you cannot meet the requirements of the academic fees, yes, you may have to think again about opting for the IB.
So it is not just that 1 year that I've sent my daughter for is going to be expensive. Going forward, IB
if you would want to continuing, if you would be continuing within the IB program,
I need to be prepared for the kind of cost that I'm going to send.
Absolutely.
And all the cost, it's not just the school cost. I have to give her the resources. Let's say a simple thing like a laptop or an iPad that the school I have to provide. And in the school, all the other additional expenses that happens is definitely high.
It would be wise to have a clear transparency with the school about what are the expenses that are involved. So there are schools that provide laptop to students also.
Of course.
So it varies from school to school. But then the regular cost that comes in is the tuition fees and the exam fees. So every exam that they take, either Cambridge or IB, they need to pay an extra fee for the exam to the Cambridge board or the IB board.
But you said the exam is only in 11th grade. So till then, the fee would not
apply. So it's only in 12th grade. So at the end of the year, year 13 or grade 12, they have an exam fee applicable for the subjects that they take. So that's an extra fee that comes in. Apart from that, it's a tuition fee that the school proposes. And that's one aspect. But the other aspect that the parent might want to consider is what is it that they want for their child in future? If they want them to pursue a particular career in a particular destination, if they want them to study in India or they want them to study abroad, there are two different lines of approach. So if it is within India, I mean, doing an IB curriculum would certainly take them there. But do you want to spend that much money to, take them to a university within India? But if you want to take them to a university outside India, maybe IB is the right path for them to take because it gives them a lot of advantages that university officers are looking for.
So as a parent, if I want to send my daughter to IB school, which starts from 6 lakhs per annum in our primary and pre-primary school with another 20% hike every year, I need to be prepared to shell out or to invest that kind of money in her education till she graduates. Yes? Do I have to be prepared?
Yeah, partly yes. If you are focused on having the IB curriculum for your child, yes, it would involve a little bit of mindful planning of your budget, yes.
Yes.
But then, having said that, I think most schools are also very cognizant of making the IB quite accessible to everyone or to all children. There are, I know, schools which take upon paying the fees of the curriculum for most children. I mean, probably not here, but then they would. I have read stories of schools doing that.
Okay.
But apart from that, I think if I can speak for my own school, we do offer a lot of financial assistance in the form of scholarships.
Okay.
And as grants to children who have shown outstanding achievements in different fields, maybe sports or academics or performing arts. So we do try to make sure that we do provide the IB curriculum to as much students as possible.
So, ma'am, why do you think we see lots of children moving back to CBSE or Cambridge curriculum or regular state board curriculum after their 10th from IB?
I think primarily it's because the parents or Indian parents are more traditional in their approach to what they want their child to do for the future. So I do see a trend among parents where they are very focused on having the child take the competitive exams. And there is this misconception that they can best attempt the competitive exams only through the traditional route, which is the CBSE. So like I mentioned earlier, CBSE, yes, is the curriculum on which the competitive exams are based. But there is a lot of difference in the way both curricula are treated, and being in either one of them doesn't disadvantage any child from taking a competitive exam. But there is this myth among parents that CBSE is the route to go to if their child is moving towards competitive exams, and that's why we do see that shift, especially after grade 10, when there are certain parents who haven't yet bought into the benefits of any other curriculum other than the CBSE.
Right. So now my daughter can finish her 12th and attend to JEE and NEET without any much of hindrance if she's done from IB?
Yes, she can, provided she has taken the basic eligibility criteria, which is the subjects that are prerequisitely required for that particular examination. So if it is engineering, she should have taken physics, chemistry, and mathematics as 3 of her subjects. If it is medicine, she should have taken physics, chemistry, and biology as her grade 12 or 11 subjects.
So now, let's say my daughter has finished her 10th till her 10th in a CBSE or a Cambridge or a state syllabus, IC, any other syllabus. Can she do her 11th and 12th in IB?
Yes, certainly.
And she can have her subject selections?
Yes, she can have her subject selection. So because IB subject selection in grade 11 offers a wide variety of subjects that they can opt from, there is a possibility of your child being able to pick a stream of their first preference and also having an ability to pick a stream that they might want to consider as a second preference. So for example, say your child is interested in medicine and they want to pick physics, chemistry, and biology, but your child is also having an interest towards people management or behavior of people. They can also pick psychology. So there is a backup plan there where they can stream themselves towards a medicine career or to counseling. Similarly, there's a possibility of them picking visual arts. So if it's a person who is good at or enjoys graphic designing or wants to go into animation, they have a possibility of picking visual arts along with the other subjects. So they have 2 streams.
Along with sciences, she can pick visual arts or performing arts or arts. Anything she can
not perform. I mean, it depends on what the school offers.
What the school
offers also. So there are 6 groups. So ideally, you have groups for languages, you have groups for mathematics, you have groups for sciences, you have groups for humanities, and you have groups for arts. So based on what the school offers, a child is allowed to pick 1 subject from each of those groups. So the child gets a mix of 6 different subjects.
6 subjects.
So based on the combination the child picks, the child can route their future path based on their interests or based on which they think is feasible.
Looking at all of this, what do you as an educator see the future of IB in India being like?
I think the future of IB in India is quite promising because it is a curriculum that speaks for itself from the students that it caters to. Like I mentioned earlier, the child who walks in and the child who walks out of an IB classroom is way different, and that speaks for itself. And I think if you would talk to university officers, I think they have a very clear preference for an IB graduate because of the rigor that the curriculum involves, because of the skills that they are certain that the students carry within themselves. And of course, the amount of activities the child would have been part of through the curriculum,
During the
maybe through the
curriculum.
CAS or maybe independently, but the child is always encouraged to be a part of the community and be of
Okay.
use to the community. So there is
Okay.
a lot of nuances in the skills the child develops
Okay.
and turns out as.
Yeah.
So there is a clear preference for an IB graduate, but
Okay.
I think the awareness needs to come.
Okay.
There is we are a long way from what the benefits of the IB are and how many parents would buy into that, because I think Indian parents tend to be very traditional. Mostly when it comes to entrance exams or making the child stand top in a class.
I think even the expense of the education also plays a part, because I'm sure
absolutely.
70% of us are working parents.
Absolutely.
And it gets really difficult to invest so much in a child's education
Absolutely.
at that young age.
Yes, that's true. But then I do see a trend where parents probably may not invest until grade 10, but
Yes.
by the time the child is ready to take on university, they do make that switch to the IB at grade 11, where
Okay.
they want to make sure that the child has the proper profile in place and
Right.
they have their university path charted out for them.
Okay. 2 children who have applied for a university.
Okay.
One is done from IB and one is done from Cambridge. Both are equally talented. Both are equally skilled, have done the same subject. As a university, which student would a university pick?
So I wouldn't say that's as easy as that.
Okay.
Because when it comes to a university officer, they have a lot of factors in mind. One of which is, of course, the child itself.
Yes.
So what the child carries within themselves as a person, the character of the child, what kind of activities the child has engrossed themselves in,
Right.
what are the academic results of the child, and what are the interests of the child, and what is the initiative the child portrays. So there are a lot of factors there. But when it comes to skill development, I would say that the IB students would stand out.
Okay.
Against their competitor.
Okay.
And of course, the profile building of the IB child is naturally taken care of because of the CAS that is part of their curriculum. So there again, they have an advantage because the CAS takes care of their profile building for university applications.
So the university application is taken care by the school in IB, whereas in Cambridge or CBSE, the parents have to build their own.
What I meant to say was any university that wants to take in your child is looking for a holistic learner, right?
Yes.
And as part of being the holistic learner, the child should have engaged in different kinds of activities. It shouldn't be just a child who's academically driven.
Yes.
The child should have engaged in some kind of physical activity. The child should have reached out to the community in some way. So because the IB has the CAS program in place as part of the curriculum, the child naturally the child naturally tends to engage in all these activities. So that part is taken care of.
Right.
Skill part is taken care of.
Right.
And because of the rigor of the curriculum, the academic results are also taken care of. So if you look at the whole picture, an IB student has a lot of advantage over a normal Cambridge student or a CBSE student. So if both of them are in line and if the results match, if the profile stands out for one person, that person has an edge over the other.
Right. So now with the research and the, because IB is more research driven, holistic development and group discussions. And so I have to let my 4th grader use a iPad or a laptop openly for the research at least.
Yes.
So, and how do you say, I mean, what can I do to try and restrict it?
No, you shouldn't be restricting it.
For IB curriculum, I don't think I have an option because there are no books.
Yes, I know. I understand. So I don't think you should be restricting it. But then, of course, digital tools have to be used mindfully. So as a parent, you might need to make sure that, your child is seated in a visible room where the screen is facing you so that you know that they are actually doing the task that they have in hand rather than, exploring something that they shouldn't be. So that is one way of controlling it. And of course, having an open communication with the child, making the child understand the dangers of the cyber world and, how to be mindful about is, I think, the primary approach that a parent could do.
Right. So in this IB curriculum, do we have handouts or printouts or anything related to the topics that is discussed in the classroom?
Yes, certainly. So when I say there are no textbooks, of course, textbooks are available in the market and children do go ahead and buy them.
So as a school, do you tell them that we follow this textbook?
So we do recommend few books which are IB endorsed. So we do say that for this particular curriculum or for this particular course of subject, this is the textbook that's recommended, which kind of details the topic for you.
But
so it is a fallback upon like a resource which you
Okay.
can look up to in case you don't understand a particular topic. You can go and read, and you can,
But
catch
as
up
a
on that.
school, you do
As a
not give
school,
them.
we don't give them any textbooks. So
Okay.
we have this curriculum which is structured by the teacher, and the teacher takes it on based on the flexibility or based on the necessity of the topic that needs to be covered. And in the course of the teaching learning process, they do have tasks that come to them in the form of handouts, worksheets, maybe a scaffolded template, graphic
Right.
organizer. So there are different handouts that go out to them.
In IB, the child and teacher relationship seems to be very, very important.
Yes.
Than all the other relationships. As parents, is there any certificate or is there anything that we know for a matter of fact when I go and talk to this teacher, she's knowledgeable to take an IB class?
So the qualification of a teacher is quite similar for every curriculum. So, if a teacher is teaching senior secondary, she needs to be a postgraduate with a teaching certification, so which is in place for all curriculum, and so is it for the IB.
Okay.
But that's the basic.
That's
right?
the basic.
But to be able to teach the IB program, like I said earlier, IB mandates that the teacher is trained for that particular subject by the IB. So which is the
Right.
category 1 training that all teachers undergo.
Okay.
So if you're looking for a certificate, that's the certificate that validates that the teacher is trained to teach
Trained
the
to
IB.
teach the IB.
But apart from that, what qualifies a teacher as an IB teacher is more of that urge to learn, which a teacher should be having inbuilt, and it's an aptitude that the teacher builds over time. And with experience, I think each teacher becomes better day in and day out.
So, ma'am, IB curriculum, as you said, what I'm understanding, it's vast.
It is.
Compared to other curriculums. What support system do you think as parents we can give to our children outside the school for the curriculum?
I think as parents, one, encouraging them to be more inquisitive, encouraging them to take charge of their learning. More importantly, teaching them that failure is not detrimental.
It is just for all parents. I think all of us have to say that.
Absolutely. So IB always advocates a growth mindset in the child. So, if you haven't been able to achieve what you expected to achieve, try and analyze what went wrong and how it could have been different, or what next you would do to make it better.
Okay.
So that is the mindset that you need to promote within your child. And of course, if you are seeking for tangible support outside school, I think if it's a subject that the child is struggling with, I think nowadays you have a lot of online tutoring that's available. But like I said, IB qualified teachers or IB qualified tutors are not an easy find. And
it is not only not an easy find, they are very expensive. And now I understand why they are expensive,
Yes,
especially after what you have told us.
Absolutely. So, but then if that's the kind of support you want, then there is support outside school available.
Okay.
But within school, I think there is a lot of remedial support that most schools offer. Like I said, IB is very inclusive and is mindful of the progress that the child makes. And if the child is ready to seek help, I think most schools do provide that kind of support within school.
Okay. So now, which is the right time? Let's say I have enrolled my daughter in IB curriculum. As parents or as a family, we have decided that she needs to attend one of the entrance exams in India. Is it advisable to send her to a CBSE school to ease her comfort at a younger age than putting her through the stress when she's 16, 17? Is that?
So this is something I come across very often with parents, where the parents are very much focused on driving their child for the entrance exams, and they want to make sure that they have the basics right, the foundation is laid out strong. So I do tell them that IB never mandates that a child cannot take a particular subject at grade 11. So even if she hasn't done physics in grade 9 or 10, she can still take physics in grade 11, and we do start from the basics. So it's not, there's no prerequisite for taking a subject in the IBDP or in grade 11. So even if she has missed out on a subject in grade 10 or grade 9, she can still do that subject at grade 11, and it still builds the foundation that's required for the entrance exam. So I wouldn't say that the child would miss out by not doing the Cambridge or the CBSE syllabus and going focused towards the entrance exam way early in grade 8 or grade 9 or grade 10. So it's perfectly fine to continue with the IB till the end of grade 10, and then take a call if required for the CBSE in grade 11.
Okay. You do not have a selection of subjects in grade 10. Till grade 10, they have to do everything?
So it again varies from curriculum to curriculum.
In IB?
So in IB, they do have a certain set of subjects that they do in grade 9 and 10, which is called the middle years program. So
Okay.
middle years program runs from grade 6 to 10.
Okay.
But with respect to CBSE, again, say the child is focused for the entrance exam, the parents usually opt for CBSE because they think that learning physics or chemistry way early in grade 9 will build a stronger foundation than learning it only in grade 11. And like you were mentioning,
Yes.
than putting them through stress at grade 11. So
Right.
what I'm trying to say is there's no stress factor here.
Okay.
So in grade 11, they start from basics.
Okay.
So there's no prerequisite.
Not necessarily.
They don't
they
need to have anything
Okay.
pre-learned to be able to take the physics again in grade 11. So it's
Okay.
perfectly fine to start with physics in grade 11 than, start way early in 9 and 10.
Okay. So, like now in Cambridge IGCSE exams for by 9th and 10th, let's say I've dropped math or one of the sciences.
Right.
And I've finished my 10th in IGCSE. I will not be able to go to state syllabus or CBSE if I've dropped math.
Yes.
I cannot take MPC or
Correct.
NEET or any of the 11th and 12th.
Correct.
But in IB, you're saying even if I have dropped math, I can still take math
Yes.
in 11th of IB.
Yes.
And I will be able to cope up.
Yes.
So
maybe for a subject like math, it might require a little bit of extra practice if it's a subject that you've dropped and you've come. But for a subject like physics or sciences or maybe even business management,
okay,
there is no prerequisite at all. The
Okay.
child will be able to cope very comfortably from grade 11, treating it as a new subject.
okay. So it is okay if my daughter drops out sciences in grade 9 and 10, math,
Yes.
physics, or
Yes.
chemistry, and but in grade 11 she wants to take them.
Yeah.
Will she still be able to write NEET?
Yes. She will still be able to
Okay.
write NEET as long as she has taken those subjects at her grade 11 and 12.
Okay. So now saying that, how much of importance do IB give for extracurricular activities like arts, literature, drama? Is it in your syllabus? Is it a
Okay.
mandate?
The beauty of IB is IB, like I said, is focused on holistic development. So it's
Right.
not just academic oriented. There is a lot of focus on what the child does apart from academics. So if I talk about the diploma program, they do have a component called as CAS, which stands for creativity, activity, and service.
Okay.
So creativity is all the creative activities that they pursue, which you rightly said, dance, drama, or music.
Right.
And activities, all the physical activities they pursue, like
Yeah.
sports. And service is what they do for their community. If they
Correct.
go out of their way to serve the community in a
Right.
certain way or to make things better for somebody else in their community, that's treated as service. So every child has to mandatorily complete at least 150 hours of this. When they do that, they're not just expected to do it for the sake of it. They're expected to learn from that act. They're expected to understand how it could have been better or what they gained out of it.
Okay.
So it's also a kind of self-reflection where they
Right.
try and understand how it could have been better or what else could I have done or what did I gain from this.
Okay.
So it in the long run, it becomes a very transformative experience for the child. And personally, I think I have seen students walk into the grade 11 classroom and walk out of the grade 12 classroom when they graduate. There is a stark difference between the boy who walked in and the boy who left the school. You
Right.
do see that dramatic difference in the way they behave, in the way they talk, the way they think. And that's the beauty of the IB curriculum.
IB is one of the latest curriculums that's been introduced. 230 schools all over India is very little, but it is one of the most expensive curriculums. Why do you think it is so less compared to our CBSE? Is it just that it's a new curriculum?
There are two aspects to this. Yes, it's a new curriculum and not all parents or stakeholders are aware of the benefits of the curriculum. Not everyone values what the IB can do for their child. So like I said, IB is very skill oriented and the focus is on the learner and it aims to develop the learner to his or her fullest potential, especially to prepare them for the future that lies ahead, which is quite unpredictable at present. Right. So if parents buy into that, yes, you would see a lot of takers for the IB. So that's one aspect. The awareness about the IB is not as much as it should be.
Okay.
The other aspect, of course, it is one of the most expensive curriculums, but it is also one of the most highly standardized curriculum because you need high quality resources. You need to train the teachers regularly. And you do need to have that inquiry-based approach within the classroom. So if a school has got all of that together, then implementation of the IB program is quite an easy thing to adopt.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if all schools can afford to do that. So probably these are two reasons why, you see lesser number of IB schools.
So saying that, I've heard IB students do not have exams. Is it a myth or is it a fact?
It's not a myth, but it's not a structured exam-oriented approach.
Okay.
IB treats assessment, again, with the child in focus. So there is a continuous assessment in place where every day in the classroom is an opportunity for the child to demonstrate what he's learned. So there is a lot of formative assessments in place within the classroom, which has equal weightage to any proper formal assessment or examination that any other curricula offers. So there is this continuous progress that the child needs to demonstrate through the years of the course. And at the end of year 13 or grade 12, they do have an external examination also, which they need to attempt and secure a certain grade there, which obviously.
So in IB, let's talk about grade 4 and 5 and 6 and above. There are no topics given for that entire year. Let's say topics 1 to 10 that has to be covered in this entire year. There is nothing structured.
So there would be no listed topics
from IB curriculum. There is no listed topics given to the teacher or for an educator to follow that this academic year, these are the topics to be covered. It doesn't work like that.
Let me clarify there. So the primary is a little different from secondary.
I know. That's why I asked you only secondary and high school. I know primary is completely
so primary has a more of a conceptual approach where you have a broader concept broken down into smaller key concepts which they need to cover. So they know what the broader themes are.
Right.
Whereas in the secondary, you do have a list of topics that you should have covered.
Okay.
But the topics are treated with a conceptual approach. It is more like interconnecting concepts and having a broader concept and making sure the child have the broader understanding and are able to, take charge of what they've understood and not understood and work on themselves to improve or even seek help and make the remedial course of action that they're required to do.
Right.
But they do have a structured syllabus that is given to them with a list of the basic minimum topics that has to be covered.
That academic year, as you keep going to higher grades, you do have the list of topics that you have to cover.
Yeah.
With AI, you will just get the answer to the right question that you've asked for. How is it making a difference in today's children's life?
Yes, so AI is an important tool in today's world, and IB doesn't recommend that children never use AI.
Of course.
IB wants them to use and be, at pace with the technology that we have. But like I mentioned earlier, academic integrity is important. So we try to instill the values of academic integrity in the child even before they start using these tools so that they know that they have to use it ethically. And yes, information is at a hands away, so they do get that. But once they have their project presented with the information, there is a lot of supporting tasks along with that which tries to help them to develop their critical thinking as well. So it's not just bringing the information and submitting your project. You need to be able to justify what you've written. You should be able to integrate the various disciplines within the project, and you also need to be able to reflect on what you have done. So there is a lot of critical thinking that's encouraged. So it's actually a balance that we need to strike between the use of AI and the learning that they have. It's nice to leverage the use of AI, but the children are taught to balance the use of AI with their own learning and progress from what they have done. So IB always mandates taking that approach and making sure that the children know the basics of academic integrity and they maintain that throughout their work in school.
That's what you have to say for us. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here today.
Thank you so much, Deepthi.